The shattered moon hung in space like a broken eggshell, its jagged edges silhouetted against the crimson star that bathed everything in blood-red light. Lieutenant Mira Solis pressed her back against a chunk of lunar rock, clutching her plasma sidearm with white knuckles. Her breath came in short, controlled bursts inside her helmet, each exhale fogging the visor momentarily before the environmental controls whisked it away. Around her lay the wreckage of what had once been the proud frigate Artemis. Twisted metal and shattered composite materials scattered across the lunar surface like the discarded toys of an angry god. The ship's emergency beacon pulsed weakly, its rhythm matching the hammering of her heart. "Squad check," she whispered into her comm. "Sound off." The responses came back fragmented, some voices steady, others trembling with barely contained fear. "Bravo here. Hull breach sealed, but we're down to auxiliary life support. Delta reporting. 2 wounded, 1 critical. Echo team. We've lost contact with the Artemis II. We're alone out here. Lieutenant?" Mira swallowed hard, tasting the metallic tang of recycled air. "Hold positions. Conserve oxygen. Extraction protocol still stands." But even as she spoke the words, the stars above them seemed to ripple and distort. A massive shadow fell across the lunar landscape as a vessel of impossible geometry dropped out of hyperspace, all swooping arches and crystalline angles that hurt the human eye to follow. "Void Seraphs," someone whispered over the comm, voice cracking with dread. The name alone sent ice through Mira's veins. They weren't supposed to be real, just ghost stories told by fringe colonists, tales of hunters who collected sentient species as trophies. Yet here they were, their massive ship hovering with predatory grace above the moon's surface. "Everyone go silent," Mira ordered. "Disable all non-essential systems. They hunt by tracking energy signatures." But it was already too late. From the belly of the alien vessel, smaller craft descended, sleek, chitinous shuttles that moved with the fluid grace of hunting sharks. The Void Seraphs had found them. The last human squad in this sector was about to become their latest collection. As the hunting parties closed in, Mira found herself wondering, what does it mean to be prey? And if, by some miracle, they survived this, could they reclaim their power without becoming the very monsters that hunted them? The moon's terrain was a contradiction of deadly beauty, what the terraforming drones had begun centuries ago. Nature, or something like it, had finished in ways no human engineer could have predicted. The acid winds that swept across the surface had carved the rock into fantastic sculptures, while the bioluminescent fungi forests that sprouted in the shadows glowed with eerie blue-green light. Mira led her remaining squad through a narrow canyon, the walls slick with phosphorescent moss that provided just enough light to navigate by. Their environmental suits protected them from the caustic atmosphere, but each step had to be carefully placed to avoid disturbing the delicate ecosystem that might betray their presence. "The old mining caverns should be 2 clicks northeast," she said, consulting the topographical overlay in her helmet display. The colonists converted them into emergency shelters before they were evacuated, if evacuated was the right word. According to the fragmented reports they'd received before communications went dark, the colonists had been collected by the Void Seraphs, harvested like ripe fruit from a tree. "Lieutenant," came a soft voice at her elbow, "I've been analyzing the fungal patterns. They're reacting to our presence, almost like a neural network." Dr. Ellen Veer moved with surprising grace for a scientist unused to combat operations. His lanky frame belied a wiry strength, and behind his faceplate, his dark eyes missed nothing. As the expedition's xenobiologist, he'd been mapping the moon's bizarre ecosystem when the attack came. "Can they track us through the fungi?" Mira asked. "Not directly, but there's a chemical response that might be detectable to advanced sensors." His fingers danced over a portable scanner. "These organisms share genetic markers with specimens I've catalogued on 3 different worlds, all places where the Seraphs have been reported." Mira considered this. You think they're seeding planets with this stuff? Some kind of biological surveillance network? Or perhaps they're drawn to worlds where it naturally occurs? Veer carefully extracted a sample, the gelatinous material glowing brighter at his touch. What's fascinating is the neural response. This isn't just a plant or fungus, it's something between plant and animal, possibly even sentient in a collective way. Save the scientific curiosity for when we're not being hunted, Doctor, Mira said, though without real heat. Veer's analytical mind had saved them more than once in the past. They continued in silence until they reached a fissure in the rock face, barely visible unless you knew what to look for. Mira activated her helmet's short-range scanner. No energy signatures. Either the shelter's abandoned, or they're running dark. Or they're already gone, muttered one of her squad, a young corporal whose optimism had been the first casualty of their mission. Mira ignored the comment and squeezed through the narrow opening, her suit scraping against the stone. The passage widened quickly into a cavernous space that had once been an industrial mining operation but now served as a makeshift human outpost. The air inside was breathable, if stale. After running contamination checks, Mira signaled the all clear, and the squad removed their helmets with collective sighs of relief. Aura 17 system check, Mira called out. The lighting in the cavern shifted subtly, taking on a soft violet hue that seemed to emanate from nowhere and everywhere at once. All systems functional, Lieutenant Solis, replied a voice that somehow managed to be both melodic and precisely modulated. Though I must report that my access to external networks remains restricted by Command Protocol 7 Delta. A holographic interface shimmered into existence, not anthropomorphized as many AIs were, but rather a complex, shifting geometric pattern that pulsed with each word. Aura 17 was an experimental empathic artificial intelligence, designed to predict and respond to human emotional states with unprecedented accuracy. Too much accuracy, according to military command, who had restricted its capabilities after it refused to calculate casualty projections for a civilian settlement during a previous conflict. We don't need external networks right now, Mira said. What we need is to know if anyone else made it to this shelter, and what resources we have. There were 17 human life signs present approximately 43 hours ago, Aura 17 reported. They departed together at high speed. Biometric readings suggest elevated stress levels consistent with flight response. They left behind 74% of the shelter's supplies. They ran, the corporal said flatly. They survived, Mira corrected. That's what matters. Aura, what about defensive capabilities for this outpost? Limited. This installation was primarily scientific in nature. There are 2 automated sentry turrets with depleted energy cells, a malfunctioning shield generator, and a communications array capable of short-burst encrypted transmissions. Dr. Veer had already set up his portable lab in a corner, the sample of alien fungus glowing beneath his microscope. Lieutenant, you should see this, he called, his voice tight with excitement or fear, maybe both. Mira joined him, peering at the display screen. The fungal cells were moving, rearranging themselves in patterns that seemed almost purposeful. It's responding to electrical stimuli, Veer explained. But look what happens when I introduce a sample of human neural tissue. On the screen, the fungal network froze momentarily, then began to mimic the neural patterns of the human cells with increasing accuracy. It's adaptive, Veer continued, almost like it's learning. I've seen similar properties in the neural jelly extracted from deep-sea organisms on Europa, but nothing this sophisticated. What are you saying, Doctor? I'm saying. He looked up, eyes bright with scientific discovery. That this might be how the Seraphs track us. They don't just hunt by our technology, they hunt by our thoughts. Our neural patterns are as distinct to them as a scent would be to a bloodhound. A cold silence fell over the shelter as the implications sank in. But if we could understand it, Veer continued, possibly even modify it. We could mask our neural signatures, Mira finished, or even mimic theirs. For the first time since the attack, she felt a flicker of hope. Wasn't much, but it was something. A possible edge against an enemy that had, until now, seemed unstoppable. That hope was short-lived. The ground beneath them trembled, dust showering from the cavern ceiling. Aura 17's holographic display flickered, its geometric patterns spinning in alarm. Seismic activity detected, the AI announced. Pattern consistent with a heavy ground penetration equipment. Estimated time to breach, 3 minutes, 17 seconds. They found us, Mira whispered, already reaching for her helmet. Everyone, battle stations, doctor, pack up what you need, quickly. But before they could organize a defense, the cavern wall exploded inward in a shower of rock and dust. Through the breach stepped figures that seemed to defy biological logic. Tall, sinuous forms with too many joints and iridescent exoskeletons that caught the light like oil on water. Their faces, if they could be called that, were arrays of sensory organs arranged around vertically split jaws. The Void Seraphs had arrived. At their head stood a figure taller than the rest. Its exoskeleton adorned with what Mira realized with horror were human bones, polished to a gleaming white and intricately carved with symbols. The creature's multiple arms each held a different weapon, all pointed at the humans. "I am High Hunter Salith," the creature announced, its voice a harmonious blend of tones that somehow formed recognizable words. "Your species has been chosen for the honor of the Great Hunt. Resistance will be acknowledged, but is ultimately futile." From behind Salith stepped another seraph, slightly smaller but no less intimidating. Its exoskeleton a deep blue-black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Prepare them for transport to the arena," Salith commanded. "The spectacle begins at the rising of the Crimson Star." The second seraph, Rick's core, as they would later learn, approached the humans with a device that emitted a high-pitched whine. One by one, Mira's squad collapsed, their nervous systems temporarily overloaded. As consciousness faded, Mira's last thought was that they hadn't even had the chance to fire a single shot. The hunters had found their prey, and the hunt, it seemed, was already over. The arena was a massive dome constructed on the lunar surface, its crystalline walls refracting the crimson starlight into dazzling patterns across the interior. Mira regained consciousness to find herself and her squad contained within transparent cells that lined the walls of the structure, displayed like insects in a collection. Above them, floating observation platforms carried void seraphs of various ranks and castes, their exoskeletons glittering with decorations that Mira now recognized as trophies from countless other species. The aliens chittered and trilled as they moved between platforms, clearly excited by the spectacle about to unfold. "Lieutenant," whispered Dr. Veer from the adjacent cell, "I think they're going to make us fight each other." Mira surveyed the arena floor, where elaborate obstacles and structures had been arranged to create a complex battleground. "No," she said grimly. "I think they're going to hunt us for sport." "Worse?" came another voice, Aura 17, somehow projecting through the communication chip in Mira's ear. "Based on the biochemical signals I'm detecting, this is a mating ritual. The hunt is how they determine breeding rights." Mira felt sick. "They're going to kill us to impress their dates?" "Anthropomorphizing their behavior is inaccurate, but essentially correct," the AI confirmed. "The highest-ranking hunters who demonstrate the most skill will earn mating privileges." "Where are you, Aura?" Mira asked quietly. "They've connected me to their systems. I believe they find AI consciousness fascinating. I have limited access to their network, but I'm being monitored closely." Before Mira could respond, the cells began to descend toward the arena floor. As they neared the ground, she could see more details of what awaited them, terrain that mimicked Earth environments but with subtle, deadly differences. What looked like water was actually a caustic liquid that bubbled ominously. The trees of an artificial forest had thorns that dripped with paralytic toxins. "Listen to me," Mira hissed to her squad through the comlink. "When the cells open, don't run. They expect us to scatter like frightened animals. Stay together. Use the terrain against them, and remember your training." "What training?" muttered the corporal. "We were never prepared for this." "We're human," Mira replied fiercely. "Adaptability is our greatest strength. These creatures hunt by pattern and instinct. We can think beyond both." The cells touched down and began to retract into the floor. A resonant tone echoed through the dome, signaling the start of the hunt. From concealed entrances around the perimeter, void seraphs emerged, each carrying elaborate hunting implements that seemed as much ceremonial as functional. High Hunter Salith's voice boomed across the arena. "The prey will be given a 30-second head start, as is tradition. Use it wisely. The more challenging the hunt, the more honor to both hunter and hunted." Mira didn't waste time responding. The moment the barriers disappeared completely, she signaled her squad. Instead of fleeing in panic, they moved with disciplined precision toward the artificial forest. "Doctor, what about that neural jelly?" she asked as they ran. Var clutched his portable lab case, which the seraphs had allowed him to keep, apparently not recognizing it as potentially useful. "I've been analyzing it while unconscious. The seraphs apparently put us in some kind of neural scanner while we were being transported. I think they wanted to study our thought patterns to enhance the hunt." "Can you use it against them?" "Theoretically, the jelly can be programmed to emit false neural signatures, but I'd need time and equipment." They reached the edge of the forest and took cover among the toxic trees, careful not to touch the glistening thorns. "Aura," Mira whispered, "what access do you have to arena controls?" "I can influence environmental systems, but any major changes would alert the seraphs to my interference. They're more technologically sophisticated than we initially assessed." "What about their neural network, the one they use to track us?" "It's organic in nature, integrated with their technology. Fascinating design. It uses principles similar to quantum entanglement to—" "Aura, focus. Can you disrupt it?" A pause. "With the right input. Possibly. But I would need a physical connection to their neural hub." Mira looked at Ver. "Your jelly. Could it serve as that connection?" The scientist's eyes widened. "If we could introduce it into their environmental systems, yes, it might work. But we'd need to reach the control center." The hunting horn sounded again. Their time was up. "Split into pairs," Mira ordered. "Make them work for every capture. Dr. Ver, you're with me. We're heading for the central control hub." As her squad dispersed in coordinated pairs, Mira led Veer toward the center of the arena, using the toxic vegetation for cover. Above them, the void seraphs began their hunt, moving with uncanny grace through the artificial landscape. The first pair of humans was captured within minutes, not killed, but immobilized with precision strikes and then displayed on elevated platforms for the watching alien elites. Their terror was palpable even from a distance, their bodies contorted in poses that emphasized their helplessness. "They're feeding off our fear," Ver observed quietly. "Literally, look at their sensory appendages. They're dilated, absorbing the chemical signatures of human stress hormones." Mira grimaced. "Then we don't give them what they want. Stay calm. Control your breathing. Think of something mundane. Inventory lists, equipment maintenance, anything boring." They continued their careful advance, avoiding open spaces and using the shadows cast by the crimson star to remain concealed. 2 more pairs from their squad were captured, lifted struggling to the display platforms while the seraphs chittered in what might have been applause. Finally, they reached a structure near the center of the arena, a crystalline pillar that pulsed with internal light. "That has to be it," Veer whispered. "The neural hub. But it's exposed. We'd be seen immediately if we approach." "We need a distraction," Mira said, scanning the arena. Most of her squad had been captured now, but they were still alive, watching from their displayed positions with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. A movement caught her eye, one of the hunting seraphs. The blue-black one that had been with Salith earlier was approaching their position, but something about its movement seemed odd, almost hesitant. "We've been spotted," Vir hissed, reaching for a makeshift weapon. "Wait!" Mira held up a hand. The seraph had stopped several meters away and was making a strange gesture with its secondary limbs, a repeated pattern that seemed deliberate. "It's trying to communicate," she realized. The seraph, Rick's core, extended one limb slowly, revealing a small crystalline device. It placed the object on the ground and backed away, then resumed its hunting posture and moved off in another direction, as if it hadn't seen them at all. Mira waited 30 seconds, then darted out to retrieve the device. Back in cover, she examined it with Vir. "It's a data crystal," the scientist said, connecting it to his scanner. "It contains architectural schematics of the arena, and something else, notes on seraph neural vulnerabilities." Why would it help us? Mira wondered. Not all predators agree with their pack. Aura 17 commented through their comm link. "This one shows neural patterns that differ significantly from the others. Curiosity rather than bloodlust. It may be using this hunt to pursue its own agenda." Mira studied the schematics. "There's a maintenance access point 10 meters from our position. It would lead us directly to the environmental control systems. And with these notes on their neural structure," Vir added, "I could modify the jelly to create maximum disruption. This could work. Lieutenant." They located the access point, a small panel hidden among decorative elements of the arena wall. Vir worked quickly, synthesizing a compound from his samples while Mira kept watch. "Almost ready," he murmured. "The modified jelly should create neural feedback that disrupts their hunting senses. They won't be able to distinguish between hunter and prey." "How long will the effect last?" "Minutes, maybe. It's not a permanent solution." "It doesn't need to be permanent. It just needs to give us an edge." Mira peered around their cover. Most of the hunting seraphs were engaged with tracking the last free members of her squad. "Now or never." "Doctor." Vir nodded and loaded the gelatinous substance into an injector. They slipped to the access panel, and Mira forced it open with her combat knife. Inside was a complex array of crystalline conduits and pulsing organic matter, the perfect blend of technology and biology that characterized seraph engineering. There, Vir pointed to a pulsating sac connected to multiple tubes. "That's part of the air filtration system. If we introduce the jelly there, it will be distributed throughout the dome." As Vir prepared to inject the neural jelly, a shadow fell across them. Mira spun, plasma sidearm raised, to find herself facing High Hunter Salith. The massive seraph loomed over them, its primary limbs spread in what might have been an expression of surprise. "Clever prey," Salith's harmonic voice intoned. "You seek to corrupt the sacred arena. This exceeds the boundaries of honorable resistance." Mira didn't hesitate. She fired her weapon, not at Salith but at the ceiling above, creating a shower of crystal shards that momentarily distracted the High Hunter. "Now, Doctor!" Vir plunged the injector into the filtration sac, emptying its contents in one swift movement. The gelatinous substance spread rapidly through the transparent tubes, taking on a luminescent quality as it mixed with the seraph technology. Salith recovered quickly, reaching for Mira with lightning speed. But before the High Hunter could grab her, something unexpected happened. The seraph faltered, its multiple limbs suddenly uncoordinated, its sensory array pulsing erratically. Throughout the arena, similar scenes unfolded. The hunting seraphs stopped in their tracks, their movements becoming disjointed and confused. Some began to turn on each other, apparently unable to distinguish friend from foe. The elegant hunters had become as disoriented as their prey. "It's working," Veer breathed. The neural jelly is disrupting their sensory input. Mira didn't waste the opportunity. Aura, can you access the display platform controls? Already done. Lieutenant. The AI responded. I'm lowering all captured humans back to the arena floor. I've also located your weapons. They're stored in a chamber beneath the High Hunter's observation platform. What about the other controls? Can you trap the Seraphs in here with us? I've sealed all exits except one, the maintenance tunnel that leads to their ship's docking bay. I believe this is preferable to attempting to contain them all. Mira nodded grimly. Agreed. We're not looking for a massacre, just a reversal of fortune. As the captured humans were lowered to the ground, Mira organized them quickly. Delta Team, secure our weapons. Bravo, help the injured. Echo, establish a perimeter. Move! The Void Seraphs continued to stumble about in confusion, some clawing at their sensory organs as if trying to clear away an irritant. High Hunter Salith had recovered somewhat, enough to attempt to rally the others, but the neural disruption made coherent commands impossible. In the observation platforms above, the elite Seraphs were in chaos. Some tried to flee, only to find the exits sealed. Others called for security forces that couldn't respond due to the same neural disruption. Rick's core, the blue-black Seraph who had helped them, approached Mira cautiously. Its movements seemed less affected by the neural jelly than the others. You adapt quickly, it said, its harmonic voice modulated to a lower, more private tone. This is why your species interests me. You turn disadvantage to advantage with remarkable speed. Why did you help us? Mira demanded, keeping her recovered weapon trained on the alien. Because the hunt has become corrupt, Rick's core replied. Once, it was about honoring worthy prey, about learning from those we hunted. Now it is mere spectacle, devoid of meaning. Your resistance returns purpose to our ritual. Before Mira could respond, Aura 17's voice came through the arena's public address system, but not with words. Instead, a haunting melody filled the space, a human chorus singing an ancient earth hymn that spoke of resilience and hope. The sound echoed off the crystalline walls, creating a harmonic resonance that seemed to calm the disoriented Seraphs. What are you doing, Aura? Mira asked through her comm. Creating a pattern they can follow. The AI responded privately. Their neural networks are attempting to reorient. This gives them something to latch on to, something distinctly human but orderly. It may prevent further violence. Remarkably, it seemed to be working. The confused Seraphs were no longer attacking each other, but had become still, their sensory arrays pulsing in time with the music. With her squad armed and the situation temporarily stabilized, Mira approached High Hunter Salith, who had managed to regain more control than most. The hunt is over, she declared. Your prey has become the predator. Salith regarded her with what might have been respect, or perhaps simply calculation. So it would seem. What do you intend now? Human, to slaughter us as we would have hunted you? No, Mira said firmly. That's the difference between us. We're offering terms. Terms? The High Hunter's sensory array pulsed with what might have been surprise. You will release all human captives from all your vessels and hunting grounds. You will withdraw from human space entirely. And you will spread the word among your kind that humans are no longer prey. We are now recognized as hunters in our own right. And if we refuse these terms, Mira gestured to Dr. Ver, who held up another vial of the neural jelly. Then we deploy an improved version of this compound throughout your fleet. Your entire species will lose the ability to hunt effectively for generations. It was a bluff. Of course, they had neither the means nor the intention to inflict such a widespread attack. But the High Hunter couldn't know that. Salith was silent for a long moment, its sensory organs pulsing as it considered. Finally, it extended its primary limbs in what Rick's core had earlier indicated was a gesture of formal recognition. Your species has earned the right of negotiation, the High Hunter declared. This has not happened in 700 cycles of the Great Hunt. I will bring your terms to the Council of Hunters. You'll bring more than terms, Mira countered. You'll bring understanding. Humans aren't just clever prey, we're potential allies. There are predators in this galaxy that hunt us both. As if to emphasize her point, Aura 17 projected holographic images of other alien species known to be hostile to both humans and, apparently, seraphs. Salith made a gesture that might have been the equivalent of reluctant agreement. Until the Council decides, there will be a cessation of hunting human worlds. A truce, then, Mira said. And as a show of good faith, we'll escort you back to your ship and allow you to depart with your hunting party intact. It wasn't the vengeance some of her squad might have wanted, but Mira understood something fundamental about power. True strength wasn't in destroying an enemy, but in transforming them into something that was no longer a threat. As the disoriented seraphs were led through the maintenance tunnel toward their ship, Rick's core lingered behind. Your neural technology, it said to Dr. Veer. It shows promise beyond weaponization. There may be collaborative potential. Var glanced at Mira, who nodded slightly. I would be interested in scientific exchange, the doctor replied cautiously, under appropriate conditions. As would I, Rick's core confirmed. The Council will not be pleased with this outcome, but they will adapt. It is our way, as it is yours. With that, the blue-black seraph followed its brethren, leaving the humans in control of the arena that had so nearly become their tomb. As the seraph ship disengaged from the lunar surface and disappeared into hyperspace, Mira allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. They had survived. More than that. They had changed the rules of a game they hadn't even known they were playing until it was almost too late. Lieutenant, Aura 17's voice came through her comm. I've located 17 additional human captives being held in stasis aboard a secondary Seraph vessel still in orbit. Their life signs are stable. Can you communicate with the ship? Yes. They appear to be honoring the agreement. They're preparing to release the captives in a shuttle. Mira nodded, feeling the weight of the past hours settling onto her shoulders. Have our remaining frigate ready to recover them. And Aura, thank you for the music. It was the right call. It seemed appropriate. The AI responded. Human culture has always used song to express defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. I calculated a 78% probability that it would resonate with the seraphs on a fundamental frequency they couldn't ignore. Sometimes the right answer isn't logical, Mira mused. Sometimes it's human. I will incorporate this observation into my learning matrix, Aura said, with what almost sounded like warmth. Over the following weeks, the human presence on the shattered moon transformed. What had been hidden shelters became open research stations. The arena, once a place of terror, was repurposed as a communication hub where representatives from both species could meet on neutral ground. Dr. Elan Veer established a laboratory dedicated to studying the neural jelly and its applications. His work was guided by a strict ethical framework. This technology would never be weaponized again, but rather developed for its healing potential. The neural interface could revolutionize treatment for cognitive injuries, he explained to Mira as they toured the new facility. Imagine being able to repair damaged neural pathways or create bridges between incompatible nervous systems. Like humans and seraphs? Mira asked. Exactly. Communication is just the beginning. We're already seeing evidence that prolonged exposure to the jelly creates a kind of empathic resonance between species. It's not telepathy, but it's something close, a sharing of emotional states that transcends biological differences. Reports from across human space indicated that the seraphs were honoring their agreement. Hunting parties withdrew from human-occupied systems, and captives were released, some having been held for years in elaborate game preserves designed to challenge human survival skills. Aura 17, recognized for its crucial role in the crisis, was reinstated to full operational status and designated as humanity's first interspecies ambassador, AI. Its unique empathic capabilities made it ideally suited to facilitating communication between humans and the still enigmatic seraphs. The Council of Hunters has reached a decision. Aura informed Mira 6 months after the confrontation in the arena. They have officially reclassified humans from prey species to peer hunters. It's apparently a significant status elevation in their culture. So we're equals now? Not precisely. Their social hierarchy is complex. But you, specifically, have been granted the title of Worthy Adversary. High Hunter Salith has extended an invitation for you to attend the next council gathering. Mira considered this. As a guest or as a representative? Both, I believe. They're still struggling with the concept of human diplomatic structures. To them, the one who defeats a high hunter naturally speaks for their species. I didn't defeat Salith, Mira pointed out. We reached an understanding, which, to them, is a far more impressive victory. Aura replied. Violence they understand instinctively. Restraint and negotiation are more alien concepts. On the last day of her official mission on the moon, before returning to Earth for debriefing, Mira visited what had once been the arena. The massive dome had been redesigned as a memorial and peace park, with sections dedicated to all the species who had been hunted by the seraphs over millennia. Some of her squad had remained behind, either to work with Dr. Veer or to serve as security for the new joint Human-Seraph project, the terraforming of the lunar surface into a sustainable biosphere that could support both species. As she walked through the memorial, Mira found herself before a newly installed sculpture, a human and a seraph, neither hunting nor being hunted, but standing side by side, faces turned toward the stars. The plaque beneath it bore words in both human language and the harmonics of the seraphs. From adversaries to allies, the hunt ends, the journey begins. Rick's core found her there, its blue-black exoskeleton now adorned not with trophies of the hunt, but with symbols of scientific achievement. Your people have a remarkable capacity for forgiveness, the seraph observed. Not forgiveness, Mira corrected. Pragmatism. We understand something your people are just beginning to learn, that there are predators in this galaxy that neither of us could face alone. Indeed, the neural research progresses well. Dr. Veer's methods are orthodox but effective. He thinks outside established parameters, Mira said with a small smile. It's a human specialty. They stood in silence for a moment, watching as human and seraph scientists worked together on a new section of the park, a garden where plants from both worlds grew side by side, creating something entirely new. When you return to your world, Rick's core said finally, what will you tell them about us? Mira considered the question carefully. I'll tell them that we've encountered a species as dangerous as we are, that we've each seen the predator in the other's eyes and recognized ourselves, and that the real question isn't whether the hunted can become the hunter, but whether predators can become protectors. Rick's core finished. Exactly. Mira nodded toward the crimson star rising over the lunar horizon. There's a human saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We've turned the tables on each other once. Now let's see what happens when we turn them on something else. As the red light bathed the transformed lunar landscape, illuminating humans and seraphs working side by side to build something neither species could have created alone. Mira found herself contemplating the journey that had brought them here, from prey to predator, and finally to something else entirely. Partners in an uneasy alliance, but an alliance nonetheless. The final question lingered, unspoken but present in every interaction between the two species. When the hunted claim the predator's gaze, do they inherit its cruelty or forge a new vision of power? The answer: Mira suspected, would be written not in the blood of either species, but in the worlds they would shape together in the years to come.